Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to their episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by the folks over at Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Woodrelli. That is Harman Dial. Our technical producer, the man at the controls, is Jacob Lazar. It's a game day edition of Canucks Conversation. My camera. Okay, there we go. I'm all good to go now. A little discombobulated to start. Some stuff to talk about right off the hop. Cam Robinson's going to join us today as we preview the game tonight against the Boston Bruins and also get into some bigger picture targets. But Harman, let's just jump right into it. The big news of the day, and there's some minor news of the day we'll get to in a second, but the big news of the day, Brock Boeser back versus the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm going to be looking at
I don't know if Harman can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you
Wait,
hear
what
me?
happened?
I think Quads is having some internet connection
like
issues. Harm.
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Harm, you're good. Quads is about 4 pixels on the screen. Should correct
heard
itself. As long as you can hear Harman, you'll be good.
Yeah, I heard Quads. So can you hear me, Jacob? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, don't worry, Harm.
Okay, cool.
Quad, it's definitely on Quads' end, but it's correcting itself already. So
okay, sweet. Yeah, what I was gonna say is the biggest thing that I'm looking for with Boeser's return, especially because it's with line mates that he's not really accustomed to playing with, is how many turnovers can that trio force on the forecheck with Heinen, Bluger, and Boeser? I think that's going to be the key to that line spending a lot of time in the offensive zone, creating not only chances where you immediately force a turnover and then the opposing players are out of position and you've got an opportunity to make high danger plays in the slot, but also just as far as wearing the opposition down off the cycle, spending a lot of time in the offensive zone. They don't have a dynamic playmaker on that line. I don't expect them to necessarily be buzzing off the rush, although there have been times when Teddy Bluger has shown underrated ability there too. But the point is, I think it's going to come down to fundamentals. I think it's going to come down to relying on all three of these guys have above average two-way IQ. They win battles. They understand spacing, how to support each other with the puck. And in Boeser, you obviously have an elite finisher. So really, that's the biggest thing I'm going to be looking for is how effective are they going to be on the forecheck? How many battles do they win? Because I think that's the formula for that line, having success, generating chances, and spending time in the offensive zone.
And look, we know the Canucks are without some star players right now, but Tocchet spoke about the return of a player like Boeser, and he said, yeah, on top of being a scorer, Tocchet highlighted the systems play and how good Boeser is at playing the system and how good he is at just the fundamentals that need to happen. And, put whatever cliche you want, Tocchet basically said it, that they're excited to get Boeser back for that reason. And that's something I want to talk to Cam about as well, is just the progression of Brock Boeser, because that's not the kind of thing we'd hear from a head coach even 2-3 years ago when it comes to Brock Boeser. But he's really evolved in his game. And again, he's the subject of our poll question today. He's the subject of today's show. Brock Boeser back from injury today after missing 7 games following the headshot from Tanner Jeannot against the LA Kings on, I think it was like November 7th. It was early in the month against LA. He's missed 7 games. Jeannot got suspended for 3. Boeser makes his return tonight in Boston. Continuing on with this preview, we'll get to the stuff that Alvin said after Cam, I think, because there's 2 things from Alvin that we need to get to. I think we'll save it for anyone else. But looking at Boston, Harm, this is a Boston Bruins team that's really struggled this season. And again, there's lots of different conversations around them. They fire their head coach. They're 10-9-3 on the season. Not the start they were looking for after you give out big money in free agency to guys like Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm. Both of those guys have struggled. What else has gone wrong for the Boston Bruins this year?
Goaltending, just star players in general, not stepping up to the plate. They've had a really tough time just reliably generating offense. We know that with some of the offseason departures that they had, Jake DeBrusk included, that they lost a lot of scoring talent on the wings as well. So even when you look at their scoring, like Elias Lindholm is their 3rd highest point scorer on the roster, and he only has 10 points in 22 games. So they're just not getting any offense outside of Pastrnak and Marchand, and even those guys are underperforming. Pasternak's only got 19 points in 22 games when typically you expect him to be the type of elite producer that's pacing for 100 points, and Marchand's got 15 points in 22 games, which is underwhelming production for him as well. So they just don't have enough top 6 like bona fide scoring talent, and even somebody like a Charlie McAvoy, who is usually good for 50, 55 points. He's only got 7 points in 22 games. Special teams are RMS for them. I also look at Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle have taken massive steps back, right? Coyle was in and around the 60-point range last year. Now he's only got 5 points in 22 games. Pavel Zacha only 7 points in 22 games. So they've got a lot of forwards that are underperforming in production-wise, driving play, and they just don't have enough offensive flair as a group right now is what stands out to me.
From the Vancouver side, Kevin Lankinen starts in goal. Looks like it's going to be Artur Shilovs tomorrow against the Penguins. And quickly, before we get to Cam, I think we're just waiting on Cam here. Before we get to him, Harman's off the show tomorrow, just for a day. I worded that weirdly, but he's only gone for a day. We're going to be doing some vintage Canucks convo, so I'm going to start having some different people on the show like we used to. And when I say we, I mean Chris. When Chris started the show, the whole concept of Canucks convo before I joined as regular co-host was every week he would talk to different people off Canucks Twitter, different content creators. So tomorrow, I'm very excited. We're going to have the hockey guy, Shannon the hockey guy, is his YouTube channel, the hockey guy. He's going to join us tomorrow. Well, he's going to join me tomorrow. And I'm really excited to chat with him. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but he's a longtime YouTube creator, and I'm excited to chat with him and do a little vintage Canucks convo. We're going to try to do that on shows Harman can't make it. Just have a different voice in the seat, see how it goes. I'm excited. I'm excited to check it out and chat with the hockey guy, Shannon, tomorrow. Another hockey guy that I want to talk to is Cam Robinison, who's brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the first viewing party of the season, and we're going to be there for the rest. So don't miss out. Just miss from the arena. Come by before, after the game, or whatever event you're downtown for with arcade games, weekly drink specials, and the recently updated street food menu. Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Cam, favorite arcade game?
Oh, probably the old school Ninja Turtles game. I got down on some Ninja Turtle arcade game back in the day.
I gotta say, I think I know most arcade games. I've never come across that one.
Oh yeah, always moving across the right side of the screen. You're taking on all the Foot Clan.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I remember it now.
Jumping around, you're beating them down. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
As soon as you explain the side-scrolling part of it, I'm like, yep, I remember that game. That game was awesome. Yeah, okay, yeah. A game we're hoping is awesome is Bruins versus Canucks, which goes down tonight. Brock Boeser back in the lineup. That's the story for us here. He's missed 7 games. Just what does he bring to this team?
I mean, I think it showed exactly what he brings to this team when he was out of the lineup, right? He brings a lot to this organization and to especially, no Miller tonight, obviously, again, but to that line in general. So he brings the goal scoring. He brings playmaking. He's really developed into a nice playmaker later in his career too. He's added a bit of jam and a little defensive acumen too. So he's not sliding back into a spot that you're necessarily going to expect him to light the world on fire. I think that they're hoping that he can have his feet underneath him a little bit, get his legs going, and then maybe, if he gets himself some opportunities, he can still finish because he was clicking so well before he came out, right? But they don't want to mess with that top line right now. They don't want to mess with the Garland Joshua line. They want to get Joshua up to speed too. So they're just kind of putting him in. It's a placement spot right now until hopefully Miller's back after this road trip and they can reunite, and hopefully we can see this team actually everybody start clicking all at once because we're almost December and it hasn't happened yet.
The Canucks finally split up Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers last game. Eric Brandstrom was sort of elevated to play with Myers. He played a lot against the Ottawa Senators. You're obviously a prospects expert. Brandstrom back in the day was viewed as an elite prospect, was a centerpiece of the Mark Stone trade at some point. Can you walk me through what you remember about Brandstrom as a prospect, your theory on why it maybe initially didn't pan out for him, and how confident you are that could he be anything more than just a 5'6" defenseman at the NHL level?
I mean, you don't want to put a ceiling on him, even though he's 26 or whatever, is that he has shown really, really well. Now, granted, he's shown really well in some massaged situations, right? Like not starting any plays in the defensive zone, and they've been kind of keeping him against the soft matchups and things like that. So they have to start testing him a little bit, especially if they see a future for him. They want to extend him long term. But when he was a prospect, I loved this player. I wanted Vancouver to find a way to get another first rounder that year and grab him. Really, really exciting prospect. It looked like he had not Quinn Hughes level offense, but like he could have been a top power play guy, someone who could really move the needle for you. And that obviously hasn't happened. And a big part of that is that the defensive game hasn't come along to the level that it needed to for him to gain trust from the coaching staff. But for him to be a throw-in on a cap dump just to make the numbers work and the value that he's already provided, it's already a win for Vancouver, right? Now everything is gravy after this. If he can prove capable, and even starting half of his shifts in the defensive zone, 40% of his shifts in the defensive zone, and he can handle that in a number 4 role, that's huge for them, right? Because he can make plays with his feet and he can make plays with the pass, and he can be that Quinn Hughes light, that PC, that President's Choice version of Quinn Hughes, and add some playmaking that they desperately need, right? Like I've been harping on this blue line all year. It's that something needs to give, and they still need to infuse some more talent in there, and that has to happen via trade. But if he can be a number 4, that is going to go a long way in helping them mitigate some of these ugly errors that are happening on that blue line this year.
On the blue line, like we've been saying for a while now, Susie Myers had to get split up. They got split up, but again, it maybe moves the needle a little bit, but again, you're still waiting on Eric Branstrom and all that sort of stuff. But Cam, when it comes to this team this season, is it as simple as they just need to go make a trade for a legit top 4 guy to be going from good to great?
Sure. It's not like anybody else is looking for a D-man, right? So it shouldn't be a problem. The cost should be low. Yes, I mean, it's as simple as that. If you can get someone who can be a legitimate top 4 defenseman, someone in their mid to late 20s or I guess 30, I'm sure the team wants somebody who has term or that they can see sticking around for long term, because the prices are going to be high, right? Everybody wants a top 4 defenseman. You slap them on the right side, and then the premium only goes up. So it's going to be a dogfight for them to get anybody. They did it last year. They did some work early, getting Zadorov early. I know Friedman just kind of tongue-in-cheek threw that out there that maybe he'd reunite. I don't think that that's an obvious answer for them. I always come back to Rasmus Anderson in Calgary. I think that would be a really good fit. But again, the price is going to be very, very high. So is the team willing to move off of Nylander? That's a big price to pay on a player that they have a lot of high hopes for. So that's the type of thing Calgary's going to want. They're going to want that plus, right? They're going to want some serious assets, and they're going to wait until the last minute, take that risk that he gets injured and they lose their asset. But you take that risk at this point if you're the Flames, and there's going to be a bidding war on a player like that. So they might have to get a little creative. They might have to go for someone that's in the second tier of those defenders that they trust their pro scouts that, hey, this guy has some room to grow, similar to what they probably looked at with Brandstrom. They probably, I'm guessing here that their pro scouts were like, we like the mobility, we like the playmaking. Is that we can work him, we can massage his defensive game. Maybe we got a player here, so maybe they have to look at doing that little budget bargain bin shopping.
Speaking of the trade market for defensemen, David Jiricek's name has been out there quite prominently. Where do you stand on Jiricek's potential? And if you were an NHL GM, how aggressive would you be about pitching Columbus and making an offer, because the price for him isn't going to be cheap either?
No, I was about to say the price is high, right? And the kid's got pedigree, whatever 6th overall pick a couple years ago. He's 6'3", he's 200 plus pounds, be on the right side. We loved him at EP ringside. He wasn't my top ranked D that year, but I still had high hopes for him. But the development stalled a bit, right? The foot speed hasn't come along to what you'd expect. And there's been some questions about the IQ, the decision making on the ice. And so when you have a player like that got rushed to the NHL, and now their development's stalling a little bit, and now there's a new GM in town who didn't even draft him, right? Plus they got Denton Matejchuk down in the AHL just tearing it up. So it makes a lot of sense for them to dangle him out. He's one of these pieces that a contender is not going to grab and then be like, here's our solution to a top 4, right? He's the type of player that a team like Detroit or someone, San Jose, that they're building something long-term, that they have the patience to wait on a kid like that, because there is a very real upside for him to be a top 4 right shot defenseman who can play in all situations. But you have to wait. So I don't think Vancouver's going to be in the mix for Jiricek, but I do, we're hearing that. I'm in London right now at the CHL Top Prospects. We're hearing a lot of buzz that he's going to move ASAP here too. And it's going to be to a team like that, not someone who's really looking to contend this year.
Cam, we'll close this out, or at least my final question. Our poll question today is if Brock Boeser is going to be able to score 40. He's on pace for 38. He's missed 7 games. He was on a good pace to start the year. Do you think he hits 40 this year?
It's gonna be tough, because he's, like you said, he's already missed 7. Even if he plays the rest of the way, that's 40 and 75 or whatever. Yep. That's a tall order. So I'll take the under. I don't think it's out of the question. I think he can get hot, as we've seen a number of times throughout his career, is that he can get hot and he can get streaky. So, never say never, but let's pencil him in for 35 and call that a win.
One last question I had for you. Nils Höglander has been a big topic of discussion in this market as well. Started the year a little bit promisingly, but then slid down the lineup. Is in Rick Tocchet's doghouse, it would appear. Season low ice time against the Ottawa Senators. How much belief do you have in Nils Höglander as a piece the Canucks should keep as part of their mix moving forward? Or do you think, would you be open to the idea of using him as trade bait closer to the deadline?
Yeah, I'd absolutely be in favor of them using him as trade bait if they can boost his value to a point where it makes sense, right? Because 24 goals last year, the even strength production was really impressive. And so that was probably the high watermark of his trade value. So if you were really thinking of moving off of him, they should have done it in the summer and parlayed that into someone in maybe a mid or late 20s defenseman that could have fit in nicely. You're probably not going to get that value for him now. So he's back in the doghouse, familiar spot for him the last couple of years here. But now he has to get that confidence back, and he's got to get out of his own head. He's got to become more of a lightning rod, someone who can be a spark plug that can move around the lineup and get guys going, not chase the hits, but, find them and then make something happen when he forces those turnovers. We've seen him do it before, right? He's a player that I've really liked his entire career, even going back to his draft eligible season, is that he can play a specific type of game at his size that blends skill and some snarl. And that's what he's got to get back to doing. So if he can get back to doing that, find his game, and then that's the piece that they move to get themselves a top 4 defenseman. That plus, I think that's an easy move for them to make because of the void of depth and talent they have in their pipeline on defense compared to what they have up front. So it's obvious that the coaching staff, they aren't enamored with him. I'm a little surprised he didn't come out of the lineup for tonight. And if he doesn't show up, I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of the lineup for tomorrow night too. So he's really going to kind of put up or shut up time.
That's a great point, Cam. Really good point to finish on. Appreciate you taking the time to do this, and we will chat with you soon.
Of course. Thanks.
There he is, Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. He was at that CHL US. What's that thing called? The Prospects game? There it is. You know what's funny? Listen. I was just listening to the first. Well, it's not even the first episode. It's like a teaser of The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, where Jeff was talking to the CHL president. I don't know his name, but they were talking
Dan
about
McKenzie, I believe his name.
There it is.
Yeah.
Dan McKenzie. They were talking about this. Give me the name again. CHL Top Prospects Showcase. Is that it? What'd you say?
I'm gonna let you struggle. I'm gonna let you struggle here.
Well, I know it's something like that.
I know it's something. I'm just.
The CHL USA Prospects Challenge. I was close. I still don't understand the concept, but it sounded awesome. Maybe we'll ask Cam about that next time. He's there right now. Shout out to Cam Robinson for joining us. Let's pull up poll question. Poll question today about Brock Boeser. As I said in that interview, he's on pace for 38 goals right now. Will he hit 40? 32.5% say yes. 67.5% say no. I thought about doing 35. Thought about doing 30, but I was like, you know what? He's on pace for 38 right now. I thought it might be a little disrespectful to come in and say, can he hit 30? I think he's hitting 30. I'd say, yes, he's hitting 30. And I say, I think I'd still vote yes that he's hitting 35. When it gets to 40, that's where I start to say, I hope he does. It'd be awesome for the player. It'd be great to see Brock Boeser score 40 goals in a year where he's had some adversity in terms of injuries. It would be awesome to see. That's a hard pace to keep up. The one that he was on to start the season, where again, 6 goals in 12 games, probably not going to be able to keep that up. So I say probably not 40, but I hope he does it.
Yeah, I hope he does too, but you're right. The odds are stacked against him to hit 40 just because of how many games he's already missed. Plus the other X factor now is how long is JT Miller going to be out of the lineup, right? They're such an effective duo together. And for as much as JT was really feeling Brock's absence when Brock was out of the lineup, Brock also benefits enormously from JT Miller's playmaking below the goal line, where Brock has that skill set to get open in the slot, and JT had the skill set to immediately find him and without even looking, feed him those passes so that he could quickly get those shots off in really dangerous locations. So that's going to have an impact at 5-on-5. That's going to have an impact on the power play as well. So yeah, with Brock, he'll hit 30 plus. We'll see how high the ceiling is beyond that, but I'd be pretty surprised if he hits 40.
Okay, a bit of a shorter episode today, folks, just with it being a game day, but let's get to anyone else because there's a lot in the chat about, we've got conversations about Baines, Sasson, we've got conversations about Hoaglander, Sherwood. There's lots in the chat today, lots of chat, buzz on this Tuesday afternoon. So let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at White Spot. At White Spot, they're all about enjoying great, comforting food and spending quality time with loved ones. With a new comfort menu, White Spot is focusing on cozy, satisfying flavors that are perfect to enjoy with family. Available now and developed by the White Spot culinary team, the comfort menu is filled with warm, indulgent dishes designed to make you feel right at home. The new menu features mouth-watering new additions like mini Yorkies, the braised beef burger, the home-style pot roast, and backed by popular demand, the iconic chicken pot pie. Bring your family to White Spot for a delicious meal, perfect for the season. Visit your local White Spot today. I'm going to say something, and I don't know how many people are going to agree with me, and I don't want to get too off the rails here, but it's just something I thought of. We're talking about White Spot. Something I've started to really like doing, Harm, with the fiance, the wife, is meeting up. I guess it's a little different. It's a little different, but the meeting up for like a dinner or whatever, rather than traveling together, because we live together, rather than traveling together, I like that so much more. And I'm not saying I want to tell her to take an Uber or take the bus while I drive there or anything. I'm just saying, like, if I'm working or whatever and she's also working, it's like, hey, let's meet after work or whatever, and we meet at the same place rather than meet up. I just like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I don't live with my girlfriend, so I can't really
Jacob?
I don't have insight on this. I don't know what to say.
Jacob, married guy, bring it on in. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I understand what you're talking about. I'm indifferent to it, but yeah, I know what you mean. Just like, hey, we're coming from different locations. Let's meet up for dinner. Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
All right.
I mean, I'll say it's nice to meet as far as I don't have to drive and do the picking up part.
Oh, that's true.
Convenience factor.
That's true. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm not doing the whole. I'm not doing the whole. Yeah, you take the bus. You Uber on over there, and I'll meet you there. We'll take separate transportation. No, I like it. And bringing up White Spot made me think of it. If you're listening to this, call your significant other if you have one, and say, hey, let's meet up at White Spot for a delicious meal. Play this into the phone. Me talking about the mini Yorkies, the braised beef burger, and the homestyle pot roast, and the chicken pot pie as well. Sorry, I had to get a little off track there. Just a little, because it made me think of it. But let's get to the chat. There's a lot in here today. People are excited about the hockey guy joining the show on Wednesday. Me too. So have you ever watched the hockey guy on YouTube, Harm?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So I've been watching him since he started his channel. And I don't mean to brag, but when I started watching him, he had 3,000 subscribers. I think, what's he at now, Jacob? A lot. Do you know the number off the top of your head?
He's approaching 500,000. I think he's almost at 400,000 or around 400,000. I'll take a look. But yeah, the number of views he gets in a week is crazy. Okay, a little less than I thought. 332,000.
Oh shoot, I don't know if we want him on the show anymore.
Oh yeah, 332,000. But yeah, he gets well over 250 to 300,000 views a week, at the very least. So he's doing well.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk to him, because that's the thing. We used to do that on Canucks Convo. When I started, that's what the show was. When I started as a guest, when I was a guest on this show, that's what it was. And Harman, you were the same thing. It was just different creators, different people in the media, different Canucks fans, whoever it was, they were joining Canucks Convo. So we're gonna try to do that. We're gonna try to do that. Do some vintage Canucks Convo episodes. That's what we'll call them. We'll call them that. Maybe one day. I know people in the chat are putting requests how about Chris Faber? How about you bring him on the show? One day we'll get Chris on the show. Crazy Z in the chat said Quads meeting his childhood hero. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm excited to talk to Shannon because he makes really, really solid content. And I'll try my best not to gush too much tomorrow. But shout out to him. He's going to be on the show tomorrow. Really, really looking forward to that. Okay, let's get to Arvin Ojala in the chat said, it's always a shorter episode. Quads, you're too busy. It's not just me this time. It's not just me. We've got to get the show out. We got to get the podcast out. The game starts at 4. People want to consume the show before the game starts. But again, you'd miss good stuff like me talking about the hockey guy and meeting the wife at a restaurant. If you skipped this episode, so don't skip this episode. What else is there in the chat? I feel like we had something about Sasan here.
Lots about Baines and Sasan from like 5 or 6 different people, so can't pick a name specifically.
Well, I'm missing all of them. I don't know why I can't see any of them. What do you see, Jacob?
It was more so just about like
oh, here we go. Here we go.
Upset about Baines being in over Sasan after Max's performance in Ottawa.
Okay, so LC250 asked this. Why do they have Baines over Sasan in the lineup? I feel Sasan played better last game. Sasan's the odd man out tonight with Brock Boeser returning. Canucks are playing the Penguins tomorrow. It's expected based on what Talkit was saying this morning at Morning Skate and yesterday at practice even. Or excuse me, it was just this morning. It's expected that Sasan's getting back in against the Penguins, and why wouldn't he? Had a really solid debut. To be honest, I'm a little bit surprised that he's the odd man out. Aside from just not being an NHL regular, that'd be the only case against him, I think. But he's going to be in the lineup tomorrow, and it's surely not Brock Boeser coming out tomorrow. So again, it leaves this question of who's going to be. People are asking about Baines. People are making this a Baines versus Sasan thing. If I'm Nils Höglander, I'm trying to play my absolute best hockey tonight because I think this could have been Nils Höglander very easily.
Oh, yeah. I was half expecting it to be Nils Höglander. As far as Baines versus Sasan in this situation, I think it really just comes down to when a coaching staff is looking at putting their lineup in, the first thing that they look at, especially when it comes to filling out a fourth line, isn't so much what upside does a player bring, because I think we can all agree that there hasn't been really any upside to Baines offensively at this point. But the first thing they look at is, what's the risk of this player hurting us? Does this guy make mistakes? Can I trust him to take a regular shift and that he's not going to turn a puck over or lose his assignment defensively and make some type of critical error that directly leads to a goal against or take an undisciplined penalty? And I think just because Baines has had more NHL games under his belt, that's why he has a little bit of an advantage in that respect over Sasan. Even though Sasan's defensively responsible and has been great in that facet in the AHL, it's just Baines kind of has more NHL reps under him. And even though there isn't a lot of upside to him, he's the quote unquote safer option still.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to. That's all it comes down to. And it could be Baines tomorrow. It could be Baines tomorrow, but we'll see who comes out for Sasan. I did mention that I wanted to bring this up. Patrick Allvin, couple of quotes through our pal Ian McIntyre at Morning Skate today in Boston. 2 things. The first one, Allvin saying that he's very proud of JT Miller for seeking help. This is the first update we've gotten from the team about JT Miller since that first statement. This is what Allvin said through iMac. First and foremost, I'm very proud of JT for seeking help. I don't know if he said it, but I believe that he's going to be a better person, better teammate, and better hockey player when he returns, and we sure miss him. He's such an impactful hockey player, and I think we have, and the league has, all the right support to help him. So it's our first update since a week ago today, actually, since JT Miller stepped away from the team. So it's the first sign of, any sort of update. This is the first one that we've gotten about JT Miller. Again, no indication on when he's going to be back. We're not going to sit here and speculate. We know he's not going to be on this road trip. Don't know if he'll be back December 6th when the Canucks return home against the Columbus Blue Jackets, but nonetheless wanted to bring that up, that quote from Patrick Allvin. Anything on that you wanted to mention?
Not a whole lot, just that it's important for an organization to have a player's back in a moment like this, whatever JT is going through, and for the player to not feel as if there's any sort of rush to get back into playing for the team and getting back into the lineup. I think public messaging like that, which I'm sure the organization and Allvin have privately communicated to JT as well, is important at a time like that when player presumably feels vulnerable and is clearly going through something. It's important to know. It's reassuring, I imagine, for JT to know that the organization has his back.
Another thing from Allvin, Thatcher Demko is close to being a game time decision. Again, that one from, you guessed it, Ian McIntyre tweeting that out. That his tweet that Alvin said that Demko's recovery since camp has actually been better than expected. Praised the goalie's rehab work. Said he's getting close to being a game time decision. We've heard for a bit now that Thatcher Demko's return was going to be imminent. We knew that it was going to be either sometime on this road trip or very early into that homestand. Alvin kind of confirming what we already thought, but nice to hear from the GM that it's a matter of days and that it's again, when you're close to being a game time decision, it means that you're really, really close to returning.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious if they try and be specific about what opponent they play him against, right? The question that I have, for example, is would they prefer him to go up against an opponent like whether it's Buffalo on Friday or Detroit on Sunday, as opposed to, let's say, the Minnesota Wild on Tuesday? And if it is a case where the timeline just sort of ends up being that the game against Minnesota would be the first one that he's healthy enough to appear in, would they then want to maybe push his first start back until they're back at home against Columbus, a weaker opponent? That's something that I'm going to be fascinated to see is internally, does it even matter who they go up against? Is it on the road? Is it at home? Or is it just whenever he's healthy, we're going to put him in?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm really curious about too. Also wonder if the philosophy is similar for Rick Tocchet, where when he was speaking about Boeser, he said with these kind of things, you're kind of just waiting for the player to tell you that he's good to go. I would imagine that with how complicated Demko's injury's been, and I think when Tocchet says with stuff like this, I'm pretty sure he's talking about concussions and a player telling you he feels completely symptom-free. I feel like it's a little bit different with Demko, just based on how much communication there's been between him and the organization, how they've really worked in tandem here. And it really, I think the one thing we can say, Harm, it really does feel like that both sides are really adamant that they're not going to rush this return. And I think that's what you want to see for Demko, who's obviously had injury troubles in the past.
Yeah, they have to be on the same page. And you can even, in hindsight, going back to Demko's initial return towards the end of the regular season, right before the playoffs, whether you think it's fair or not, there were some fans wondering, was he rushed back? And was that part of the reason why he got re-injured in game one against Nashville? So the last thing that the organization or the player wants to do in this instance is feel like there's any pressure to return, because the teams, yeah, they've played inconsistently, but they're not in a crisis mode as far as their performance or their record. And really, it's the long term that matters most here when it comes to not just, okay, whenever he's going to be back, he's back, but making sure that he's healthy enough to last the regular season and hopefully be there for them in the playoffs too.
Okay, two final ones that I want to get to. This one from LC250. When Miller returns, which one of Ratu, Baines, or Sasan is going to be more permanent on the roster? Harman, is it crazy to say that Ratu probably out of those three is the guy that gets sent down? Maybe only because he could use some more AHL time and he's younger. Like, is that a crazy take to have?
It's not a crazy take, but I also look at it and go, we've only seen Sasan for one game. So I can't really make a read. Like, yeah, sure, he looked good in that one game, but it's it can't really have a hard take on, oh, he's ready to stay as a 13th forward on this roster after one game. I also look at Baines and Ratu and go, they're both kind of in a similar role where they're tweeners, right? They can play on a fourth line. They have some value, but neither one of them has really decisively made a claim that you can't take me out of lineup or you can't send me down. So as far as I'm concerned, it's wide open right now. I don't think anybody's established themselves as being clearly ahead of somebody else on the pecking order.
Okay, I wanted to get this in before we get to this final one from Paul Papadoulis. I wanted to get this in. The Botchford Project, the applications close on Friday, folks. Make sure you apply. I've already helped like 3 people with their application. I've had people reach out to me. Feel free to. My email is right on the Canucks Army website. If you're looking for a way to contact me, you go to the Canucks Army site, you go contact us, and you can find my email right there. Send me your Botchford Project applications. I will look at them. I will help you formulate a really solid one. I'll give you some pointers. I want people to know that they can reach out and that they should be applying for this, even if, and again, the number one question I've gotten is, oh, well, am I qualified for this? Like, I don't know if I want to go into journalism. Like, I'm not in journalism school, but I've always been fascinated, and maybe I want to start writing at CanucksArmy, all this stuff. Like, this is the place. This is a great place to start. That's what this program is for. And if you have it, you have it. And again, you can come get the experience. And I think that's the big thing, right? So it's not just watching a game from the press box. You don't even write about the game like that. That's gravy. That's great that you get to sit in the press box, but like, it's going to morning skate. It's making all the connections with all the people in the media. It's talking to players after morning skate to get the quotes for your story. It's formulating a story. It's writing a story for NHL.com. Like, that's pretty damn cool. It's a lot of different things, and the Botchford Project's an awesome initiative. I hope the Canucks keep it going. I hope the Athletic keeps it going. Whoever's involved, I hope the Botchford Project stays and sticks around for a long time. And I hope people apply. And I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. I don't go to many morning skates these days or games. I stay away from the arena for the most part. But I will make sure I go. The day that it's the Botchford Project, I will make sure I go. And rumor has it, company man Chris Faber takes all the Botchford Project fellows out for lunch now. That's his thing now.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
I think he's done that past 2 years. In fact, I'm pretty sure he did that when he still worked at CanucksArmy, but I might be mistaken on that. But regardless, they should put it in there. Lunch with Chris Faber if you win, not win, but if you're selected. So go apply for the Botchford Project. It is a awesome program. Okay, this one from Paul Papadoulis. Trading Sprong, was it a good idea? In hindsight, look, Harm, when I talk about the Daniel Sprong trade, I think it's just become more and more evident that was more about the player just being able to go get an opportunity somewhere. And look, if he wasn't going to play in the top 6 here, if he wasn't even going to be in the lineup on some nights here, there was a team in Seattle that was more than happy to add him to their team, and he was more than happy to go there.
Yeah, I'm sort of indifferent when it comes to the idea of trading Sprong. I wouldn't have minded the idea of just keeping him around as a 12th, 13th forward in case of, okay, you run into a bunch of injuries. He can give you scoring ability. He can chip in on the power play, but clearly his defensive game wasn't up to snuff for Rick Tocchet. And if Tocchet felt that adamantly that he's just not a fit for what we're looking for on the fourth line, then fair enough. I'm not going to criticize the organization for making that move either. I'm indifferent. I don't think it was. It's a neutral move in my mind. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It just sort of is what it is.
It happened. It was a thing that happened. Okay, people in the chat are saying that this week's Family Feud survey is pretty tough. Jacob, comment?
The questions seem tough, but there are some really obvious number one answers, and those point totals for those number ones are big. But there's also going to be a lot of like 3s and 4s on the board. So just make sure you get those number ones, and you guys will do just fine. I think we need about 10 more responses, by the way. So if you're listening or watching right now and you haven't, the link is in the description. Be sure to go fill out the survey.
All right.
We can't go from 5-1 to slip in below 500. That would be a tough look.
No, that's a skid. That's a really, really bad skid. Yesterday, the Calgary Flames lost. I have to address it. It was close. It was a good game. I'm loving, like, you've watched a Monday Night Hockey Prime game now, right?
Yeah.
They're awesome. Like, they're such great broadcasts. I'm such a fan. They do such a good job. Credit to Prime, Amazon, everybody over there. They just do such a good job. Even though I had to watch the Flames lose, I enjoyed watching it in that beautiful 4K picture. It was great. It was great.
Isn't it crazy? The Flames, yesterday I was talking about how they're just being carried by goaltending, and I hadn't even had a chance to look at the numbers. They don't have a single forward on pace for 45 points or more.
Are you serious? I didn't know that.
I'm being serious. Jonathan Huberdeau leads them in scoring with the forwards with 12 points in 22 games. Anderson has 13 points in 22 games, so he leads the team overall in scoring. But yeah, their leading point scorer up front is on pace for less than 45 this season.
That's crazy. So what you're telling me, Harm? Do you know what you're telling me?
No. Don't put words into my mouth.
Do you know what I'm hearing?
Yes, that they're frauds.
No. Do you know what I'm hearing?
The bottom's going to fall out when Dustin Wolf regresses to even a normal level.
I'm hearing that we're due for some positive regression. I'm thinking these point totals are going to pop right back up. They're winning without scoring. Oh my gosh, when the rest of the team gets going, when my Flames start burning the way that they burn, It's over. It's over for the rest of you. So let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day, which is brought to you by Bet365. Don't laugh just yet. There's a bet that you can make, NHL futures, country of Stanley Cup winner. It's minus 300 for USA. It's plus 225 for Canada. Now, I know that a big part of that is the Oilers, but look, if you really believe in the Wagon Flames, plus 225 odds, it's not a crazy bet.
Wagon Flames ahead of the Jets.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You got some insurance in the form of the Jets, in the form of, and I'm a Jets guy too. My Jets. You got some insurance in the form of the Jets and the Oilers. I like this. I think, is this the year? Not to mention the Canucks, Harm. Is this the year that Canada gets the Stanley Cup winner? Put it this way: when the Canucks go make their deadline acquisition, these odds are gonna get worse. It's going to be closer to even odds. It's plus 225 right now. That's the bet of the day. Plus 225 for the Stanley Cup winner this season to be out of Canada. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Okay, anything else that you wanted to add before we close it out, Harm?
Nope.
Okay. People in the chat are asking, this is a Canucks combo, right? This is Canucks combo. Lots of Flames chats. People in the chat don't believe in the Flames the way I do. So we'll leave it there. For my co-host, Harman Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar. My name is Jake Virgelli. Thanks so much for listening to an episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.